The entire restaurant fell into a hush, like it had been hypnotized. Every pair of eyes turned in the same direction. A young black waitress was untying her apron. Beside her stood a boy with trembling legs. He was disabled, and his hand was held midair, a silent invitation to dance. No one moved, no one answered, except Jasmine Carter, the waitress. No one could have predicted what came next. Not in a five-star steakhouse. Not in front of so many reporters. And certainly not in front of Ethan Caldwell, Texas oil billionaire. A man who'd funded over 10 major foundations, but had never once bowed to anyone. Micah was his only son. The boy had been in a car crash 2 years ago. He hadn't walked unassisted since. He barely spoke, rarely smiled, and never ever raised his hand to dance until tonight. A soft jazz melody drifted through the candlelit room, and Micah suddenly raised his hand, just above the white linen tablecloth, frozen in midair, waiting, hoping. Jasmine saw it first. She didn't ask, didn't seek permission. She just quietly took off her apron, set her tray down next to a vase of lilies, and gently reached for his hand. Ethan jumped up from his leather chair. His anger surged to his throat. But before he could speak, Micah stepped forward. Just a little. The brace on his leg clicked loudly on the tile floor. A harsh, clunky sound. But no one flinched. No one turned away. Jasmine didn't pull, didn't guide. She simply followed his lead. Slow, steady, full of faith. The whole restaurant held its breath. A few guests quietly raised their phones. A woman near the bar whispered, "She's getting fired tomorrow." But Jasmine didn't care. She smiled at Micah. Let him set the rhythm. One step, then another, and another. Time seemed to stop. Ethan's expression shifted, from fury to confusion, then into something unfamiliar, almost human. He suddenly saw his late wife, the woman he'd lost in that very crash. Her face returned like smoke and candlelight. She used to dance with Micah every afternoon. She once told Ethan something he'd never understood. It's not the perfect steps. It's the feeling of being led. Micah moved awkwardly. But his eyes, they weren't afraid anymore. No more shrinking back. Only focus. And for the first time in 2 years, a tiny smile touched his lips. Jasmine whispered, "Thank you for inviting me to dance," then bowed her head slightly, like she was addressing a gentleman, and walked away. Ethan called after her, "Wait." His voice wasn't the same. It was softer, real. "What's your full name?" "Jasmine Carter, sir," she replied. Ethan nodded slowly. Jasmine Carter. Then reached into his blazer pocket and pulled out a business card. "Tomorrow, 10 a.m. My office." The restaurant fell silent again. Jasmine didn't speak, just took the card and walked out quietly. But her hands, they trembled. Micah watched her go, then turned to his father. "Why did you do that?" His voice was like a whisper, but it cut deeper than any accusation. Ethan didn't answer right away. He just looked at his son, and for the first time, didn't see a boy who needed help. He saw a person, whole, and completely himself. Dinner resumed in awkward silence, but nothing tasted the same. Only the echo of 3 small steps remained, and a question that lingered in the air, unanswered. Elena left the auditorium in silence. No reporters followed. No advisors at her side, just her and an old pair of shoes. Her feet ached a little. A strange feeling. No more pride. Only something real. So real that when she got into the car, she couldn't bring herself to look in the mirror. For the first time in years, she wasn't sure who she was. The car rolled down Ventura Boulevard. Neon signs flickered outside. People laughed, chatted. Life went on. No one knew what had just happened, except the cameras and Elena. She slipped off the old shoes, held them in her hands. The soles were peeling, still had dried mud on them. One lace was hanging by a thread. She whispered to herself. He wasn't performing. He meant it. The driver glanced in the rearview mirror. "Ma'am, where to next?" She paused, then said, "Back to the hotel." "No, wait. Pull over at Griffith Park." The driver hesitated. "Now, ma'am. It's getting late. Please, stop the car." Her voice was soft, but firm. The car slowed to the curb. She stepped out. The night air was crisp. Wind stirred her loose hair. She hugged the old shoes to her chest and walked into the park. No entourage, no security, no cameras. Only Elena Cross. In a kind of confusion she hadn't known before. She sat on a long wooden bench. Los Angeles sparkled ahead. Bright, busy, and so far away, far from the moment she took off her shoes, far from the president's stare, far from the woman she thought she was. "What'll the press write tomorrow?" she murmured. Elena publicly humiliated Elena. Breaks under pressure, or maybe Elena learns how to be real. She exhaled deeply, unlocked her phone. Dozens of texts, hundreds of missed calls. From the media, from the board, from her mother. She didn't answer. Turned off the screen. Slipped it back into her pocket. An elderly woman walked by, carrying a worn canvas bag. She paused to look at Elena. "Those are nice shoes," she said with a toothless smile. Elena blinked. I just borrowed them." The woman sat down beside her. "Borrowed or old, they still get you where you need to go." "Elena Cross, right?" Elena flinched. "You know me." The woman nodded. "Saw you on the news tonight. You were good. But tonight, you grew up." Elena bit her lip, fought the tears. "I feel weak." "No," the woman said gently. "You just got strong. Strong is when you let go of ego. Most folks your age don't do that." Elena turned to look at her, not with arrogance, but with gratitude. The kind that doesn't need words. The wind picked up. The woman stood. "Keep the shoes. Don't polish them. Don't frame them in glass. Let them stay dirty. Because dirt means real." She turned and walked away. Elena stood there, watching her disappear into the night. She knew. From this night on, everything would change. Not just for the headlines, but for herself. The car pulled up again. She didn't say a word, just got in, sat in silence, and for the first time, she wasn't thinking about stock prices, or cash flow, or follower counts. She was thinking about her feet, and the road ahead, and how she was going to walk it. Thursday afternoon. The wind was still. Golden sunlight stretched lazily across the quiet street. An old building sat tucked between two busy markets. On its wooden sign, "Brave Steps," not big, not flashy, but warm. Inside, soft music played. There were sounds of laughter, the squeak of wheelchairs, and the uneven steps of little feet on the floor. Jasmine sat at the front desk, scanning the list of new students. That's when Zuri came running in, her sister, face tense, voice urgent. There's a Bentley parked out front. Silver gray. Custom license plate. Jasmine didn't respond. She just stood up and walked toward the window. Through the dusty glass, she saw Micah sitting in the back seat, eyes filled with anticipation, his hand gently pressed against the window, waiting for a signal. The driver's seat was occupied. Ethan was still there, gripping the steering wheel, but not moving. "He's not coming in," Zuri whispered. "Men like him, they don't step into places like this." Jasmine smiled. "But Micah will." Just as she said, the car door opened. Micah stepped out, slowly, carefully, still holding the brace on his left leg. Ethan remained behind the wheel, watching, his eyes taut with tension. A young boy opened the center's front door. He spotted Micah and shouted, "Our new friend's here." Micah grinned, a real grin, not forced, not afraid. The sound of his brace echoed on the tiled floor, a familiar rhythm. But today, there were no whispers, no mocking laughs, only music, floating from an old speaker, and the voice of a young teacher. "Welcome to Brave Steps. Here, we don't try to be like anyone else. We just try to be ourselves." Micah stood inside the dance circle. The other kids moved to the beat. Not perfectly, not in sync, but honestly. Jasmine walked over, placed a hand gently on his shoulder. "You ready?" Micah nodded. Zuri approached Ethan. "You're welcome to come in. The coffee's handmade. Not like the stuff in your office, but it's warm." Ethan hesitated, just for a moment, then stepped out of the car. For the first time ever, he entered a community center. No press, no aides, just him. And a room full of kids learning to feel their bodies again. Zuri pulled out a chair. "The first time's always the hardest," she said. "But not for the kids. For parents, maybe." "I thought this was just a dance class," Ethan muttered. "No," Zuri replied. "This is a unique therapy program, led by freedom. No commands, no pressure. We don't teach perfect steps. We teach what it feels like to choose your direction." Ethan said nothing. His eyes followed Micah. The boy was trying to spin with the music. He stumbled, but laughed. Just then, the door opened. An older woman entered, gray hair pulled back, wooden cane in hand, voice strong. "Did anyone miss me being late?" Zuri rushed over. "Dr. Lillian Monroe, lead researcher in pediatric neurology." Ethan squinted. "That name sounds familiar." "It should," Zuri replied. "You turned down her research 3 times. No response, not even a note." Dr. Monroe approached him. "Mr. Caldwell." She greeted. "We've met on paper." Ethan gave a slight nod. "I didn't expect you to actually be here. I didn't expect your son to walk." The air hung still for a moment. Then applause. The children clapped joyfully. Micah had just stood up, without using the brace on his right leg. Jasmine didn't speak. She didn't shout. She didn't even move. She just smiled softly. Micah turned around, looked straight at his father. His eyes seemed to say, "I did it." Applause still echoed through the room. Some parents stood and wiped away tears. Jasmine quietly stepped closer to Ethan. "Isn't this what you wanted to see Micah walking on his own? No one leading him." Ethan swallowed hard. His eyes never left his son. He had never seen Micah smile like that. Not since Elizabeth died. Not since the accident. Jasmine gestured toward a side room. Inside, photos lined the walls. Each one a student. Beneath them, start dates, monthly notes, handwritten progress. No performance charts, just hope. Ethan pointed to an empty frame in the corner. "What's that for?" Jasmine smiled. The future, she said. Our dream rehab center. We have blueprints, a method, the students. All we're missing is the chance. Ethan turned to her. So you're using Micah to persuade me? No. Jasmine shook her head. I just created space. He's the one who stepped into it. No manipulation, no setup, no control. Ethan let out a breath, then asked quietly, when you walked up to my son at the restaurant, did you know who I was? I did. And you still did it. You still held his hand. You let him lead. Jasmine gave a soft smile. Because in that moment, I didn't see you. I saw a lonely child. Ethan fell silent, just sat there, still. A few minutes passed. Then Zuri burst through the door. Jasmine, come quick. It's Micah. They rushed into the hallway. Micah was standing in the center of the room. No brace, no cane. His legs trembled, but held. His arms spread gently, like a bird trying to fly. Everyone held their breath. Ethan stepped forward. Micah. The boy turned around, eyes shining. Dad, I can walk. Really? Ethan's instinct was to run to him, to catch him, to hold him. But Jasmine placed a hand on his chest. Wait. Just watch. Micah took another step. Slow. Steady. No stumble. No fear. Ethan froze. His whole body trembled. A man used to making decisions, controlling everything, now stood there, doing nothing but witnessing. Uninvited, the press began arriving. Zuri gave a small grin. Dr. Monroe called them. We just published the study this morning. They wanted to see a real-world example. Ethan turned to Jasmine. You planned this too? No. She shook her head. Just good timing. A reporter stepped forward. Mr. Caldwell, any comment about your son joining Brave Steps or the Caldwell Foundation rejecting their proposal 3 times? Ethan looked into the camera, then turned to Micah. The boy was waving at another child still learning to walk. Ethan faced the reporter again. I used to think I was always right. That money could fix anything. But today, I learned something else. The Caldwell Foundation will sponsor Brave Steps for the next 5 years. We will build a new center based on this model. Under one condition, Jasmine Carter has full authority. No outside interference. The room erupted in applause. Zuri cried. Dr. Monroe smiled. Jasmine stood still, heart pounding, but eyes calm. Micah walked over, held her hand. Thank you, he said. Jasmine knelt down. Thank you for leading the way. 3 weeks later, the old space had been cleared out. A new sign was posted on the wooden fence. Brave Steps Rehabilitation Center. It wasn't a large building. Not sleek or high-end like other clinics. But it was designed from the ground up by people who truly understood what mattered. Children were invited to help with the plans. Each room was sketched in bright crayon lines. One kid drew lower windows. Another asked for floor-length mirrors so they could see their feet move. Ethan came by every week. No assistants, no laptop, just Micah and a small notebook. He sat quietly in a corner, took notes, asked questions, listened carefully to every idea. At first, Jasmine was cautious, but over time, she learned to trust. Ethan was no longer the cold billionaire. He had become a true partner. Zuri managed the budget. Dr. Monroe handled clinical guidance. And Micah, he pitched ideas himself. I want a room just for falling, he said, so kids can fall and not get laughed at. Everyone nodded, and just like that, the safe fall room was born. One afternoon, Ethan brought in a magazine, a national medical journal. Inside, Brave Steps officially recognized as a breakthrough in pediatric rehabilitation. Jasmine read it in full, then looked up at him. "So, you really studied this?" Ethan nodded. "I had to start from scratch. Micah said I didn't get it. And honestly, he was right." She smiled gently. "At first, I thought you were doing this just for Micah." And now he asked, "Now I think you actually believe in it." Ethan didn't answer, just smiled back, then handed her a small envelope. "It's an invitation. National Rehabilitation Conference. I nominated you as a speaker." "I don't do well in front of crowds," Jasmine replied. "You're not the type to turn down a chance," he said, meeting her eyes. "I rejected you 3 times. Now, it's your turn to speak up for all the kids who can't." Jasmine paused, then took the envelope. "All right," she said, "I'll speak. Not for fame, but for their voices." The center was still under construction, tiles unfinished, bricks unpainted, but the energy was alive. A little girl named Lily, 9 years old, tried dancing for the first time with her prosthetic leg. She fell, laughed, got back up, tried again. Ethan turned to Jasmine. "I used to be afraid of Micah falling. I thought a father was supposed to catch his kid, but now I get it. Sometimes a father just needs to stand back and let him try." Jasmine didn't say a word. She just nodded. Because sometimes silence is the strongest kind of truth. The new center opened 4 pilot sessions. Lights weren't fully installed. The ceiling wasn't finished. But laughter already echoed down the halls. Micah no longer wore his leg brace every day, only for long distances. In the classroom, he walked on his own 2 feet. One morning, Jasmine received an email from the organizers. The National Pediatric Rehabilitation Conference, the biggest event of the year. Hundreds of doctors, specialists, donors, and families from across the country. This year's theme, breaking the limits of traditional recovery. Her name was on the list of keynote speakers, right after Dr. Monroe. And most special of all, Micah would join her on stage. Jasmine spent nights preparing her speech. Wrote it, erased it, started again, scrapped it again. Zuri sat by her side. "Just tell the truth," she said, "like the way you tell stories every afternoon." Ethan handled logistics, shielded Jasmine from the media storm. "I know how those people work," he warned. "They twist everything. You just be you. I'll handle the rest." The day arrived. A grand auditorium, over 400 seats packed. Backstage, Jasmine gripped the microphone, her hand trembling. Micah stood beside her, smiling. "Don't be scared. I'll stand with you." She nodded, then stepped into the light. The room fell silent as a boy walked beside her. No cane, no brace. "I'm not a doctor," Jasmine began. "I'm not a licensed therapist. I'm a sister, someone who dropped out of school to raise her sibling, and someone who's watched children find themselves again, one shaky step at a time." She spoke of Lily, of Jordan, of Micah, of the early days when no one believed, of dance sessions in a stifling airless room. And the first time Micah removed his brace without telling anyone. "I didn't teach them to dance," she said. "I just walked with them. I didn't lead. I walked beside. So when they fell, I didn't catch them. I just asked, 'Do you want to try again?'" You could hear a pin drop. Dr. Monroe, sitting front row, smiled with quiet pride. Micah stepped forward, held the mic. "I used to be afraid people would laugh. because my legs don't walk like theirs. But Miss Jasmine told me, you don't have to walk like anyone else. If you want to walk, that's enough. Applause rose like a wave, thunderous. A doctor stood up. I'm sorry, he said. I used to think your method was unrealistic. But today, I understand. Children don't need us to fix them. They need us to believe in them. Ethan sat quietly in the crowd, his hands clasped, eyes wet. A hand touched his shoulder. Zuri, you did it, she said. He shook his head. No, she did it. I just learned when to step back. Jasmine left the stage without saying another word. But inside, she carried an ocean of emotion, not because of the applause, but because of Micah, who stood tall, all on his own, on a stage he once couldn't even dream of. 3 months after the conference, Brave Steps became known across the country. Letters poured in from families wanting to enroll, doctors, teachers, parents who had once lost hope. Unknown. Jasmine no longer taught alone. The center now had 4 new instructors, each one a former student. Now, mentors themselves. Ethan launched a fund to support low-income families. Zuri coordinated programs nationwide. Dr. Monroe led specialized research, and Micah became a symbol of hope. The boy who once stayed silent in the corner now stood in front of crowds, speaking, inspiring, and always ending with, "Just let me take the first step." One Monday morning, Jasmine got a call from Boston. A major hospital wanted to partner and train staff using the Brave Steps model. Then San Diego called. Then Seattle. Brave Steps was no longer a dot on the map. It had become a real movement, built on listening and patience. Not forcing children into molds, but opening space for them to shape their own path. One late afternoon, Micah came home from school, holding a report card. He'd passed every subject, not top marks, but he'd done it on his own. Ethan was sitting in the garden reading the paper. Micah walked over and laid the report card on his lap. No words, just a smile. Ethan looked up, then smiled back. Well done, son. Not for the grades, but because you tried. That same day, Jasmine was at the center, helping a 6-year-old boy balance. He kept falling. Tears welled up. But then he wiped them himself and whispered, "I want to try again." The words hit Jasmine deep. They echoed exactly what Micah had once said, like a torch, quietly passed from hand to hand. Zuri stepped into the office, holding an expansion proposal. "Are we ready for Brave Steps number 2? Jasmine nodded. "But this time, we need a music room for the kids." Zuri laughed. "Of course. And full-length mirrors, too." Ethan called from his office. A journalist wanted to do an interview. From billionaire to community education advocate. Jasmine hesitated. "I don't like being on camera." Ethan said, "They don't need to see you. They just need to hear you. Your real voice. No edits, no polish." She agreed. The interview was filmed at the center itself. No fancy lights, just a wooden sign, and the sound of uneven footsteps, tapping steadily across the floor. The reporter asked, "Do you think this model could change the whole system?" Jasmine smiled. "I don't dream that big. I just hope somewhere out there, some child gets believed in, the way I believed in Micah." At the back of the room, Micah danced to music without lyrics, not for therapy, just because he loved it. A year has passed since that evening, since those first trembling steps in a quiet restaurant. since a waitress reached for a little boy's hand, and since the stunned silence in a father's eyes. Now Micah is a sixth grader. He's part of the school's drama club, writes his own lines, presents his own ideas on healing, on hope. Brave Steps now has 3 centers across the U.S. Each one has a room named after Micah, not to honor, but to remind. Every transformation starts when a child is truly heard. Jasmine still lives in the same old apartment, still walks to the center every morning, still the first to turn on the music and the last to turn off the lights. She turned down the offer to become executive director. She said, "I don't need a big desk. I need to hear their footsteps every day." Ethan still visits the center every weekend. No assistant, no fanfare. He just watches, quietly, jotting things down in that ever-thicker notebook. One day, he handed Jasmine a letter. "I've submitted my resignation from the Caldwell Group Board. I want to dedicate all my time to Brave Steps." Jasmine was surprised. "You're giving up something you spent decades building." Ethan smiled. "I used to think power was the goal. Now I believe knowing when to step back, that's real wisdom." The 4th Brave Steps Center opened in Atlanta. Micah cut the ribbon. Beside him wasn't a doctor or a politician, but another boy, one who had once crawled with only his arms. On the wall of that center, it read, "This is not a place to be fixed. It's a place where falling is allowed, where rising is celebrated, and walking your own way is enough." That evening, Jasmine stood in the hallway. Soft breeze, golden light, laughter echoing from the therapy rooms. Micah walked toward her. No cane, no guiding hand, just himself. Steady, radiant. "I remember what you said once," he smiled. "I don't have to walk like anyone else. If I want to walk, that's enough." "I get it now." Jasmine knelt down, met his eyes. "I get it too," she said. "Turns out, one small step can change something very big." Life lesson for the listener. In life, we're often too quick to help others. The way we think is right, but sometimes the best thing we can do is take a step back, stay silent, and give them the power to choose for themselves. Whether it's your child, your student, or your teammate, they don't need to be fixed. They just need to be heard. And sometimes, one shaky little step can shake a heart and change the world.